So I think what we're going to do is go through chapter 7 and part of chapter 8 today. And then we'll go through the rest of chapter 8 next week with chapter 9. So hopefully you guys probably noticed that too as you were reading, just a lot of information. So I don't want to, I think in 30 minutes we won't be able to hit all of it, but at least briefly go through everything recommendation wise. And then next week we can go through the rest of kind of like the second half of chapter 8. And then chapter 9 and questions from there. So I'm excited. I think you guys can change up your views. Henrietta is going to kind of talk through there we go. I have you guys on gallery now. Chapter 7, and then we'll go from there. But does anyone have any questions before we start? All right, cool. Go for it, Henrietta.
Hi. So chapter 7, stress. That is something that I truly have been more aware of lately, and also being aware of the stress that you may feel that is like, no, I'm not stressed, but you are stressed. And that is something I really take to heart, that many times I feel like you want to be at 3 places at the same time, or, someone wants you and then you just want everything done. And that can really be a stress on your body, even though there's no problem for you to get, through it. But thinking about in a long term, what that does for your recovery and your goals can be really be important to think about, and just handling that in maybe a better way than you have been doing. So what we can think about is like, stress is something that we all have. We can't, I don't think any of us lives a stress-free life. And that is something we just need to be aware of, that that's how it's going to be. So what we can do, instead of thinking that I want to eliminate all stress in my life, then we can think, how can I kind of take control over the stress or deal with the stress, so in stress management. And I think that's super interesting and something that we all should take to heart, even though where we feel we are on the scale of how stressed we are. And then there are people like my husband, for example. He's a guy that, he thrives on stress. He wants that stress. He wants to be on it, it's his aim game all the time. And I can understand that, but at the same time, even though you feel like you get the endorphins and you get the adrenaline, in the long term, it's not a healthy way of living. And even though it works for you here and now because you have a busy life and you have many expectations of you, that's something that we could think about. In the long term, it won't benefit us, even if it benefits us in the moment. So if you are like my husband, you can think about that. So we've gone through this before in the book, but what the benefits from dealing with our stress is, keeping our caloric expenditure in a normal rate, reducing body fat, and most of us, want that to some extent. Preserve muscle mass, that's even more important, as especially as we grow older, because, with age we will lose muscle just by getting older. So it's even more important for us to keep what we have, and also if you want to build more. Decreased appetite, and that's who doesn't want that. And increase our energy levels. And also what will happen that we might not feel, but that will be a benefit over long term, is the reducing of cholesterol and blood sugar, remaining brain power, reducing bone loss, and strengthening your immune system. And that is, thinking about what we're going through now with COVID, that is something that will always benefit us. So the SENSE program is something that came up for the first time, more specific in chapter 7. And that stands for stress management, E stands for exercise, N for nutrition, S for supplements, and E evaluation. And all of these things, stress management, exercise, nutrition, supplements, is something that can help us manage or keep our cortisol levels low or down, or keep them at the rate we want them. And I think that is something all of us are focusing on. And I think that stress is probably what we might not be focusing on. And I think that is something we really should be more aware of. And that is actually the factor that can help us, reach next level, because we are nailing exercise and nutrition, probably more or less. So 3 ways then to take control sort of over the stress is having an outlet for the stress. Can help us, and that is why you go for a run, and that will just release everything, and you come back and like, oh, now I feel great. That is one way. It doesn't need to be a run. It's just go for a workout, go for a walk, just go outside and just scream the loudest you can. It can be whatever that makes you just release the tension that you build up. And also, I think it was a fun story about the military, when they got woken up just like in middle of the night, taken up in the air in an airplane, and then just jump 10,000 feet up in the sky. And that of course will get your heart rate up, and make your cortisol just like boom. But then they did that, for several nights for a couple of months. And then at the end of it, their cortisol levels were more or less normal, because they expected it. It was something that, okay, this is not a surprise anymore. I know it's coming. So of course it will be kind of an adrenaline, but it won't be that same cortisol rise that it was like the first and the second time. So that is also something that we can see our life and see how we go through our day, and kind of see, when am I stressed, what makes me stressed, and how can I be more ready for that stress tomorrow or the next day. So what can I do to just take a good look at yourself and see, be more aware of when you are stressed, and if, like we have talked about earlier also, if that is a situation you can change or take away, or if you can't take away, how can you deal with it better. So I think that's really important. And then also control, and control is like it is a two-way word, because if you are a control freak, that is also a stressor. So you don't want to have too much control, or the need for too much control. That is not good. But at the same time, feeling that you have some sort of control over the stress can make you make the cortisol levels be lower, because you have that feeling of control. So I think that there you just have to have the mindset, okay, what can I control, and be honest with yourself and the situation. And then, okay, some things you can't control, and then you just need to accept that. And how then you think about how can I accept that, to make myself more calm. I think that is really, so I think for me, when I read this, for me it's all about kind of really digging deep into yourself, and know yourself, and see all your sides, even the sides that you may be, that you feel like you want to change, or you feel like you would see differently. Just be aware of those, everything about you, and then that way you can grow in a way that help yourself. That's powerful to me. And then also keeping we get into like exercise and nutrition and all these specific things. And then what I noted was like drinking water is such a simple thing that we can do to keep our metabolism up and keep us full and help us in so many ways. So that is something I feel like, okay, we're nailing that. Drink our water, lift weights that will help us keep our muscle and build more muscle, and also that way keep our metabolism up. Never skip breakfast. That is something I think a lot of us do, but yeah, I took a note of it. I think that was like a good, just even though it's a late breakfast, get it in there. And what should we avoid to keep our cortisol levels in check? We should avoid alcohol, caffeine, and then supplements containing stimulants. And that is an interesting thing that I think a lot of us are not aware of, that if we are taking supplements, and I think Michaela will talk a little bit more about that, that we should be aware what is in them, and that there can be stimulants in them that will actually on a longer term raise our cortisol levels. It might make us lose weight here and now, but in the long term it will make us our cortisol levels higher, because they have stimulants in them. So that is something I think that if we take supplements, we should be really aware about, reading what's in them. Yeah, that was, yeah. And then I took a note of sleep. That is also like drinking water and sleep is two things that I think if we have everything all else nailed down, those things can help us so much. And I want to read from the book what it says about sleep. So get some sleep. Getting enough sleep is far and away the most effective stress management technique that we have available to us. Did you know that as little as a night or two of good, sound, restful sleep may do more for controlling your cortisol levels and reducing your long-term risk for many chronic diseases than a whole lifetime of stress management classes? That is just wow to me. That's just go and get that sleep. The importance of adequate sleep for controlling your stress response, helping you lose weight, boosting your energy levels, and improving your mood cannot be overemphasized. Yeah. So that is something that really stuck to me, and makes me now want to go from 7 hours to 8 hours of sleep every night.
No, it's so true. I feel like sleep is the foundation for all of this, and it's so easy to skip over it and think, oh, it's not really that important.
And you see it like time and time again in social media, and like, get your sleep, if that's the first thing you should think about before you even think about going in a deficit, and it's so true. So yeah, I think that is something I have taken more to heart recently, but will continue to do as well. And then there's a lot of things, what can we do to diminish stress? And then there's small things like they say, like changing your email program so you have emails coming in every hour instead of every 5 minutes.
Or I would say even like twice a day. I mean, unless you're at the office, I guess. But if you're working from home, like having email times is so helpful. Otherwise, you're just reacting to everyone.
For me, it can be like if I'm going out for a walk, it can be helpful just to leave my phone in. Sometimes you always want to come, maybe I want to take a picture and then I want to post it on Instagram. But sometimes just leaving that phone at home and not care about Instagram or whatever social media, or like so that is also really helpful. Just go out and just take a listen to the birds and not have music in your ears, or just be in the moment.
Yeah, I feel like that was my favorite part on that, was just like leaving your phone sometimes, because I think even when you decide like, oh, I'm going to put my phone in the kitchen, I'm not going to respond to things, like it's so easy to just backtrack and next, grab it, whatever, for anything, like from looking something up that you thought of to, there's just so many reasons. So just like leaving it and having it not even be an option, then your mind can actually turn that part off. And
That's
it's
true.
funny, in the 90s, we did it all the time.
Yeah. I have been thinking like just if I go for a walk to pick up my kid or something, I
Yeah,
have like a rule that while I'm walking, I'm not allowed to look at my phone.
just be
And
present.
that is really hard. You know, it's just,
Yeah.
it's just crazy how, you're walking and then you still need to do something. It's like just walk and okay, have it in your pocket, but don't have it in your like go.
I know. It's so true. And when you decide not to have your phone and you go somewhere in public, it's like crazy just seeing
Yeah.
everybody on theirs, it's just fascinating. But there was something I actually learned at my yoga teacher training, which I think this would be hard if you are posting on Instagram, but you can turn your phone to black and white, I think. So it's just everything's black and white, which
Mm.
sounds boring. And for that reason, people just aren't there. It's not like they have specific Pantone colors on the screen, like a very specific red that's very addicting. Like that's not a natural red that we would see in our environment. So if you turned it to black and white, you could even try it for a day and just see like, oh, that's
Mhm.
no longer appealing to me. I'm gonna, that'll be an easy way to decrease your screen time. But anyways, just finding ways. I think everyone has different needs and different ways to reduce stress, but that can cause a lot of stress for some people too.
Yeah, yeah. No, so I think that yeah, there's a lot of I don't know how much you have to go through, Michaela, but yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things you can do, of course, to manage stress. And I think that going for a massage, take a
Mm.
bath, it's just simple things. It doesn't need to be like a big time commitment.
And I
Get a
think,
pet was one. I'm like, oh, maybe not.
yeah, that would be stressful for me. Um, but for some people, that's very stress relieving, and it like gets them outside daily to take a walk, or helps them be more active too. I think one thing that, oh, and now it's leaving me. Oh, one thing I think that it is very helpful with forming habits, and also is stress relieving too, is having more rituals in your life. So, like what are the daily rituals that bring you joy? Whether that's like making a cup of tea, or maybe it's even making your morning coffee, or whatever it is, or drawing a bath at the end of the night. That sounds so like 1930s, but turning on the bath water, whatever it is, or like a daily 20-minute walk the dog, or, even walk to get your kids from school. Like, what are kind of some things you do in your day that are peaceful to you? And how can you incorporate more rituals into your day? And I think, especially in the morning and in the evening, like having some rituals that help you wind down and help you, get ready and feel like energized and excited for the day ahead. Whether that's just affirmations that you say, and then pairing those things maybe that you want to incorporate that aren't natural with things you're already doing. Like I am so bad at taking my supplements, but now, that was always the case for me. But now I drink, like I always have my Perk Energy in the morning. It's like my caffeine fix that I love. And so I know like I'm going to do that every morning without a doubt. So when I put my mug in the microwave to heat up my water, I drink water and I take my supplement. So I paired that with my Perk Energy, and it's like, it's going to happen now. And then same thing at night, I take my night supplements as I'm plugging my phone in, so like kind of pairing things that you're going to do with pairing things you want to do with things that you are going to do can be really helpful too. And then so on the next chapter, I really just wanted to hit on, because he goes through a lot of things. First, he kind of talks through medications, right? Prescription drugs. And I think sometimes we are so far off that we need an acute fix, like for our health right now. And I'm all about Western medicine when it's needed, but I think a lot of times we're just told this is the solution for whatever we're dealing with, and we get on whatever prescription drug we're prescribed, instead of thinking through like, okay, well, what's the root cause here? Like what's causing this? I'm kind of putting a band-aid on it, maybe with this prescription drug, maybe it's needed, but maybe I can ask some more questions and maybe I can take a natural alternative in supplement form that instead of targeting that one thing, like taking a high blood pressure medication, then I might have other issues that that's going to cause them as far as side effects go. Or if I'm combining that with maybe an antidepressant, then I'm going to have some things that are going to happen when those two drugs combine that might not be ideal for me. Maybe it is, but I think just continuing to ask questions and advocate for ourselves and know that we have options, and that also, if I have a skin rash or something going on, I can treat it. But I can also think through, like, maybe my body's inflamed internally and that's what's going on here. Maybe I should look into my diet or my routines and see if I can change something here that's going to help my acne or whatever it is. And I think he goes in and talks about supplements, which I like how he starts it out with diet, lifestyle are number one. And supplements are meant to supplement those. Like, those are not going to fix anything, right? Like, if you're not getting any sleep at night, but you're hitting your magnesium every single day, you're probably still going to feel terrible. So that's going to benefit you if you are sleeping, you are eating well, you are taking care of your mental and physical health. Then supplementation is going to help, like when you have periods of high stress, or really that when you have periods of high stress, so your body can stay in a good homeostasis. I loved the example he gave of the vitamin C with the girl. She's a college student and she gets sick every finals, right? Which I'm sure all of us can relate to if we've gone um, to school, like testing time of year. And for me, it was always the CrossFit Open, like so sick, and had to compete through that. And just knowing she still did all of her same things. And I'm probably butchering I don't know what page it was on. She still did all of her same things, like that she kind of did while she was testing, drinking Mountain Dew, having M&Ms, staying up late and studying. But she supplemented with 250 milligrams of vitamin C twice daily and phytosterols, sorry. And she was good, like didn't get sick at all and avoided a cold through flu season just by supporting her body in that way. So obviously she would have been even better off had she taken care of kind of her nutrition and stuff. But I think knowing too, in times of heightened stress, using supplementation as needed to support us is going to help us push through and not have maybe more severe effects currently or later. So I liked that story. And then also just talking through supplements to avoid, right? We've probably all heard of ephedra. So really just talking through, the main thing he goes through is just, first of all, there's no miracle supplements too. And I think that's important to note, because you'll see on social media all the time, someone's going to be pushing some supplement as this like miracle cure all. And I think that's a huge red flag if you see that, because that's just never going to be true. But you can see small benefits, I think, across the board using supplementation. And just talking through too on anything that's going to be a stimulant, just to be careful of. A lot of the fat loss herbal stimulants are, as far as the data goes, like they may or may not help, but they can definitely give you some very negative long-term side effects. So just avoiding those really, I think, is the safest thing to do. But things that are going to be helpful are going to be a good multivitamin mineral supplement. So taking, and the main ones that he talks about, which are ones that I recommend already, especially to my clients that are higher stress, is getting on a vitamin that has basically a vitamin B complex. Does anyone take a B complex? I think I know a couple in here that do. So yeah, so that's going to be really good. So he just kind of talks through. So thiamine, which is B1, I never pronounce these right, riboflavin, which is B2, pantothenic acid, B5, pyridoxine, B6. So all of those, if you just take a B complex, you're going to be getting all of those. And then looking through, you can kind of see what the RDA for each of those is. And then also to note, kind of aside, and I probably need to look up this this study before I just quote a statistic, but I think it's about 60% of women, or maybe even just all people, have the MTHFR gene. So that's going to affect our vitamin B levels because we're not able to metabolize folate. We're not able to metabolize folic acid. Sorry. So that's going to cause us to be low in vitamin B. And I know I have the MTHFR gene and my vitamin B levels are low. And I feel so much, I can feel a difference when I'm supplementing with vitamin B, a B complex, especially. So that's one thing to look into if you don't already take a B complex. And then from there, magnesium is huge. Magnesium is going to help so much from a nervous system standpoint. I recommend magnesium glycinate, as there's a lot of different forms. So magnesium glycinate is going to help, and I'm actually going to see if he gives any. He doesn't. He just says magnesium. But when you go to get magnesium, you'll notice there are a lot of options, and like magnesium oxide or magnesium citrate, those are going to be good for digestion, but they're not going to have the same nervous system benefits. So magnesium glycinate is going to help with your nervous system. It's going to help with stress relieving. It's like the number one mineral that is recommended in the period repair manual for regulating all things female, basically, whether it's you have really bad cramps, an irregular cycle, really anything. Magnesium is the number one thing, and she's a naturopathy doctor, and that's going to help just with cortisol regulation and managing stress for sure. And then calcium as well. Even so, he references a study in here of 1,000 milligrams per day of calcium versus 500 milligrams per day was as much as 20 pounds of body fat in 2 years. So calcium is going to help a lot with cortisol, which is also going to help with body fat levels too. And then zinc and chromium are other minerals. So it can be kind of overwhelming when you're looking at minerals and vitamins, but I would say let's use the group chat. And obviously you guys can message Henrietta and myself, but using the group chat, if you're looking for supplements, we can discuss those and recommend good brands. I love Revive MD. I think there's probably quite a few good options out there, but Revive MD is the one I personally use just because it's third party tested and I know they have quality supplements, and they have a lot of blends. They have an immune multi that I just started taking because I was taking a lot of different supplements, together, and they have it's called an immune multi. There's quite a few in there, and they also have an adrenal complex too. They have a thyroid support, but it's been on back order for a while. I think just sourcing it, they're just making sure they get quality sourcing. So I would look through their website, and I don't have a code or anything for them, but it's just what I personally use right now. And see if you guys have questions, let us know. And we're going to talk through more of the cortisol specific supplements on the next week's call. But I just wanted to at least hit on vitamins and minerals on this one. Any questions? If you guys do have questions, please ask them, because I think this, it can be an overwhelming topic. And if you have a question, someone else does, especially someone that hasn't maybe even read the book. So ask them in the group chat. I would love to continue this discussion and kind of go from there. Does that sound good? And then we'll go more in depth on the adaptogens and kind of all of that on next week's call with chapter 9. Okay. Thanks for joining, guys. Hopefully these are helpful. Have a good rest of your week.